Hey, what's going on, everybody? Christian Ballard, Ballard Sports Media, trying to get back to it here on YouTube and trying to get back to putting a lot of great college football content out for you guys. And I do think that that's going to be the direction we go in. We will talk up March Madness from time to time as that approaches very soon at the end of the month. But mostly college football content year round, even during the off season. Love and appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching and tuning in today. Today, we're going to look at the top five college football coaches positioned for their first national championship. Uh, I guess you could say for 2025. I would say within the next couple seasons. But really, when I look at these coaches, um, I look at it as any given year, anybody could go win it all. But also, you got to look at who's best positioned for this season. I don't want to look too far ahead, but I want to look at five teams that were off this. I just want to give sources. I don't want to steal too much. This was actually posted a week ago from something called Imagine. I don't know if anyone actually wrote this other than Brett Davis is in charge of the pictures for this article. But this is from the MSN, like, basic news website. So I kinda get it from here, but I do kind of agree with this list, and I feel like I need to kinda dive into it and start from the top and go to the bottom, but I came up with at least 5 out of the 6 just to kinda give a top 5 list. I do agree with them as my top 5. The only one missing, I would say, is Marcus Freeman from the list. Now, hold on, Notre Dame fans. Talking about best position for their first natty, I will throw him in as a bonus, but I would not put him at the top just because he made the title game this past season. I would not put him right at the top of the list. I would put 5 other guys ahead of Marcus Freeman that I think next season in 2025, this upcoming year, and 26, and let's just look at the next couple years. I would look at it and say that it's probably not the time for Marcus Freeman to win a national championship. Not saying he can't, not saying it would be a surprise, not saying any of that. I just think he wouldn't be in the top 5. He'd definitely be right there at number 6, though. But let's go ahead and dive into it. First on my list, I do agree with 5 out of the 6 from this list, but I would put them in a certain order. I think at the top, and it's kind of one of those, it's tied for first place between these 2 coaches, one of them being Dan Lanning, which we'll get to in a second, but Steve Sarkisian of Texas. I think Steve Sarkisian is the best, definitely the best in the SEC, but one of the best out there in college football primed to win his first national title. When you look at their upcoming schedule for 2025, they do open up with Ohio State and Columbus. This is a home and home. And it's shoot, it's just really funny to me because obviously these 2 teams met in the Goodyear Cotton Bowl in the semifinal for this past season. And Ohio State won by double digits, by 14, actually, 28 to 14. But I just think it's funny. Texas has to not only open with who they ended with this past year, but it's the defending champs, and you're going up north to play them. Now, it's probably not going to be cold like it would be in November, and you do get them in August on August 30th. But at the same time, I look at that as home field advantage for the Bucks, and I just I don't know if I don't want to get down that rabbit trail of previewing schedules, but outside of that game, they do have a good non-conference schedule with San Jose State, UTEP, and Sam Houston. They get everybody on their schedule from last year, but it's flipped around. Whereas you would get Georgia at home, or on the road instead of at home. You get Vandy at home. You get Florida on the road. So I would say it's kind of a tougher schedule with those road games with Florida, Kentucky, and Georgia. But I think it's manageable. They should be better than 9 out of those 10 teams, just kind of throwing numbers out there, 9 times out of 10, they should be more, uh, equipped to win those games, and I think I've already looked at Texas. I said they would go 10-2 with losses to Ohio State and Georgia, but that puts them on the hunt for the 12-team playoff, and if you're in the 12-team playoff, you have a pretty good chance. I don't care if you're 1, 2, or 12 to make a run at a national title. Therefore, Steve Sarkisian on this list. And he's made the he hasn't just made the playoff. He's been to semifinals. Now, I understand we had the 4-team era and they just put him in a semifinal and he was a game or two away, but he still was good enough even in 2023 to have gotten Texas to that point. He was still that good. He's recruiting out of his mind. Quinn Ewers most likely going to the draft. He's worked out and everything, so he is going to the draft. But in comes Arch Manning. Isaiah Bond's gone, but they're still recruiting out of their minds offensively with all these receivers, and they got guys in the backfield for Jaden Blue and company, but Jarrett Gibson is a incoming freshman or was a freshman last year. I think he'll come back as a sophomore, former 5-star. They got the pieces. They're going to be good. They're okay. Up next, we're going to move right along. Dan Lanning of Oregon. And part of me is a little hesitant because I know they lose some key pieces. And I would say the non-conference schedule for Oregon in 2025, Montana State, win, Oklahoma State, most likely a win. You never know with Mike Gundy and the Cowboys what you're going to get. You're never really getting a championship contender, but you are getting a either really down team that's rebuilding or you're getting a team that's going to be somewhat good that can compete. They'll have Oregon State. They have to go to Penn State, who they beat not only in the Big Ten title game, but I believe they had beat them. No, I think that was it. They didn't play in the regular season. That's right. That's right. They had played Ohio State twice, if memory recalls, but they did play and beat Penn State for the Big Ten title game. You have to go to them. You have to go to Rutgers. That should be no problem. Indiana, I don't have them on this list. That could be a good enough Big Ten team. Kurt Signegi made the playoffs this past year, lost to Notre Dame. Uh, Iowa, just honestly, it's a favorable schedule outside of maybe going to Penn State, playing Indiana at home. And I would always be careful going to Kinnick Stadium in Iowa. I would always look out for that. So outside of those couple trap games, this should be really good for Dan Lanning and the Ducks. Up next, number 3 on my list, and from this article, James Franklin of Penn State, talking Big Ten here, staying in that conference. Penn State, we looked at in this offseason at their schedule. They have 3 non-con cupcake, easy peasy games to start out before they host Oregon off a bye week before that game, by the way. They have a pretty decent path to make the Big Ten title game. Now, they're going to need some help if they do end up losing a Big Ten game like Ohio State on the road, or if they were to lose at Iowa or home against Oregon, if they lost at least one. And Drew Aller comes back next year. Nick Singleton comes back. Both guys are going to be seniors and ready to go. They just bring back a lot of key pieces that I think help them get as far as they did last year. Um, from what I understand, Andy Kolonicki is supposed to come back as defensive coordinator, if I get that right. And he was so huge for guys like Denai Dennis Sutton and a lot of guys on that defense last year. Just really, really good. They do lose a piece or two. Guys got to leave. It happens. They've recruited greatly. They brought in tremendous staff. They use the portal. They do everything they need to do during the off season. They just got to put it on the field. And I finally trust James Franklin to make and win big games. I know that's a stretch. I know it's kind of crazy, but he did win 2 playoff games. And you can say whatever you want to about the teams that he had to face in the playoffs. It's still the playoffs, and he got there. And not only did he get there, he had to win 2 out of 3 games that he played. And I don't care who they play, that's huge. That's huge. Say whatever you want to about SMU, and say whatever you want to about who else they played. They lost Notre Dame. Who they play before that? Um, Boise State. Yeah. Say whatever you want to about those teams being group of 5 level type, even though SMU is ACC, they're still kind of that whatever type of team. No disrespect, and no disrespect to the Broncos of Boise State either. They blew both of those teams out. Then they finally played the big boys and they lost. They only lost by 3. It came down to a Notre Dame field goal. So they were this close to winning a championship, or at least playing for one against possibly Ohio State, obviously, based on what they did to Texas. But anyway, I'll leave that alone. James Franklin's on this list. 2 more coaches. Let's get to Kalen DeBoer of Alabama. I think the talent and the pieces are there. He's still recruiting really greatly, just like Nick Saban did. The thing about Kalen DeBoer for me is this: people are doing this already, and I'm not surprised by it. They're trying to put him up on this pedestal like he has to win a title. He has to do this. He has to do that. As far as I'm concerned, out of maybe 10 coaches in history that Alabama's had, or however many it's been, they might claim 18 titles or whatever. I know of at least 5 coaches that won titles. It's about half, but there's still a good bit that have not won a national title. Mike DuBose, Mike Shula, um, Ray Perkins, great coach in the 80s, never won a national title. Kalen DeBoer, great coach, has not won a title, can, but also cannot possibly end up winning or not winning a national title at Alabama. But I do think he's in good position, I should say, for a national title. They got A-Day on April 12th. They do open at Florida State. Say whatever you want to about that. Um, you can make fun of Florida State all you want to. I'm there with you. It's still a tough road game to go to on the road to open the season, especially head scratching Florida State saying, okay, are they really that bad, or was this just a fluky year? They do have to go to Georgia. They host Tennessee. They got Missouri and South Carolina on the road. It's not an easy road schedule. Plus, you got to go to Jordan Hare, which I say is like this graveyard, uh, hence the name Gravedigger from 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago at least. That's not going to be an easy game to win. It's just not. They gotta get revenge on some of these teams at home, like Tennessee, Oklahoma, Vanderbilt. That's probably a lot to ask, but at least they're at home this time. They lose 3 games, they're not making the playoffs. They go 10-2, that's fine. They get in, just like we talked about with Penn State. They get in, they could go far. I think Kalen DeBoer's in good position. Bama fans, hold tight. The future's bright, and you just gotta keep trusting. You just got to keep going. Last but not least on this list is Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly opens with a big game. He's not good at opening with big games and pulling off a big victory. I think he's only done it once, maybe not at all. He's had some tough openers. USC, I could go down the list. I think what they have UCLA one year, pretty sure. Anyway, to say that they got Clemson to start the season August 30th. It's at Clemson. This is a home and home. Then they have Louisiana Tech. Then they got to play Florida. I don't know what Florida is going to look like yet. At Ole Miss, at Vandy, at Alabama. But Brian Kelly, he's looking really good, right? So it was kind of weird to see last year Notre Dame make it to a national title without Brian Kelly, who had to sit at home and just go to a bowl game. That was so weird. Not necessarily weird, but it was just like one of those, huh. And this is like Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois, right? Like, and Brian Kelly kept winning and winning and winning at Notre Dame, except for big games. Now they do have the SEC's most experienced and proven, however you want to put it. They got Garrett Nussmeier. They got the offensive line retooled. A lot of guys back there. They got to perform, right? It's It's gotta happen this year. I think it's gotta happen this year, especially you return Garrett Nussmeier at quarterback. How much time does he have left? Get your quarterback, get your wide receivers amped up, get ready to roll, and maybe, just maybe, Brian Kelly can pull this off for LSU. Anyway, I've gone on long enough. Let me know who's on this list, who's best in position for this, and let me know who I missed on this list. And again, I quote from an article just a little bit here from Imagine, whatever that site is. I don't know, but they put it up. Uh, and I thought it was an interesting list. I just wanted to share it with you guys. So let me know what you guys think. I love y'all. Jesus loves you. Keep your head up. Hit that thumbs up on your way out. Hit that subscribe button. God bless, and we'll see you next time here at BSN.